There has been a recurring conversation in our country about who is a real American. The implication is that some people don't love this country because they have opposing views on important issues like the war, or whether America is a Christian nation, or merely a country in which one is free to be a Christian if one chooses to be. The self-described real Americans are saying that you are either with them or against them. This attitude directly challenges the fundamental American values of freedom to think independently about complex issues and the right to express disagreement with the policies of our government. This disturbing conversation inspired me to investigate how some famous Americans have lived their American lives. I started in the Cape Cod town of Falmouth, Massachusetts, where Katharine Lee Bates was born. She was the Massachusetts college professor who wrote the poem America the Beautiful in 1893. The poem was put to music and quickly became a favorite of real Americans across the country, and it almost became our national anthem. Most Americans are familiar with the song America the Beautiful, but few Americans know anything about the song's author. How would Katharine Lee Bates be judged today on the real American scale?
Well, one of the interesting things about Katharine is she was so concerned about the Spanish Civil War and the treatment of Filipinos that in a 1904 revision of America the Beautiful, she provided this line, America, America, God mend thine every flaw, confirm thy soul in self-control, thy liberty and law. And she's saying to the U.S. government that you've got to be lawful about what you do and use self-control. Katharine questioned God throughout her entire life. She never joined a church. She believed in the rites and symbolism of the church, but could not adopt the tenets or the dogmatism of the church. And the women she worked with at Wellesley College through her whole life were trying to convince her to sort of confess to being a Christian. But she always said she led Christian values, but she wasn't going to grab the tenets of the church and say it publicly. Katharine was a Republican all her life, but during the First World War, she became a huge fan of Woodrow Wilson. She really believed in the League of Nations and wrote about it quite a bit. But she was so against the First World War and what was happening that she wrote a book called The Retinue and Other Poems, and she wrote 41 poems criticizing the war. The first poem is called Fodder for Cannon. Bodies glad erect, beautiful with youth, life's elect, nature's truth, marching host on host, those bright unblemished one, manhood's boast, feed them to the guns. Hearts and brains that teem with blessing for the race, thought and dream, vision, grace. O love's best and most, bridegrooms, brothers, sons, host on host, feed them to the guns. Another poem she wrote about the war, and I found it very interesting, is that in 1915, they sent 80,000 horses to the battlefield in Europe, and of course they were dying on the battlefield just as the soldiers were. And so she wrote a really interesting poem called Horses, from the point of view of a horse. I'd like to share that with you. What was our share in the sinning, that we must share the doom? Sweet was our life's beginning, in the spicy meadow bloom, with children's hands to pet us, and kindly tones to call. Today the red spurs fret us against the bayonet wall. What had we done, our masters, that you sold us into hell? Our terrors and disasters have filled your pockets well. You feast on our starvation, your laughter is our groan. Have horses then no nation, no country of their own? What are we your horses, so loyal where we serve, fashioned of noble forces, all sensitive with nerve? Torn, agonized, we wallow, on the blood-bemired sod, and still the shiploads follow. Have horses then no God?